Welcome back to the I Don't Want a Divorce podcast. Today's topic, Christian codependent lie number 1, because it's not abuse. Now, the first line of defense against the truth of abuse is denial. Now, as I do these podcasts based on my new book, 20 Lies That Keep You with Your Abuser, I ask you to do 3 things. 1, give me your feedback on these podcasts. What do you think? And if you've read the book or are reading the book, give me your feedback. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Just simply email me, David E. Clarke, PhD, Clarke with an E, David E. Clarke, PhD, @gmail.com. 2, of course, this goes without saying, buy the 20 Lies book. If you feel like it's really resonating and you want to get out of Christian codependency, buy the 20 Lies book. Could be for you, could be for someone you love, someone who is living with an abuser. I've had several cases the last few weeks where a really solid friend has referred a friend to me. We've had a phone advice session, and they gave the 20 Lies book to them, and boy, it's made a big difference. And again, the website, you can only get this book on my website. We didn't even offer it to a Christian publisher because we don't need them anymore. So simply davideclarkephd.com, and you can get the book. 3, to support me and my team in helping abused spouses escape their abusers and helping all those in marital crisis, subscribe to my podcast, leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and together we can make a difference. Now, today's topic. Christian codependent lie number 1, because it's not abuse. Here is the voice of the abused. I'm shocked that you just called my husband an abuser, which I do many times in phone advice sessions. Are you sure? My husband treats me just like my dad treated my mom. I mean, it hurts me and I'm really unhappy, but it doesn't seem awful or out of the ordinary. Aren't all men like this? Here's the fear. Second category, the fear that lurks beneath the lie. And this is the lady talking again. If it is abuse, I'll have to face that truth and feel all the terrible pain that's been done to me. This is an overwhelming fear. It makes sense to run from it, to avoid it, and to call it anything but abuse. People will go years not calling it abuse when it is obviously abuse. Another fear is my marriage will be just like my parents' marriage. You really don't want that because you know they were miserable. But the power of the modeling will still cause you to choose an abuser and live just like your parents. You experience your parents' misery in living color, and you're desperate for a marriage nothing like theirs. So you try all the harder to deny the abuse in your marriage because you don't want to have one like they did. Okay, what does the Bible say? The Bible passages I have here, Romans 1, 28 to 32, but I'm going to read 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. This is a great description of narcissistic abuse. It's the best one in the Bible. This is your abuser. Listen to this. But mark this. There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. Sound familiar yet? Without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness. These are the folks that say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Many narcissists will say, I'm a Christian. No, you're probably not. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And look at the punchline, have nothing to do with them, Paul says. Now this is talking about the last days, and I think we're in the last days now, frankly, or pretty close to it, and how many people are acting. But this also describes your narcissist, doesn't it? These are not good people. They are monsters. They are evil, and they are destroying you, and they don't realize it. As we can see in the Bible, God does not avoid abuse. He does not shrink from it. He describes it in these verses. This is what abuse and narcissism look like. These two go together. This is what you are living with. And again, God doesn't just describe it and say, well, okay, that's just the way it is. The punchline is critical. Have nothing to do with people like this. And if you're married to one, okay, get away from him or her. The experience of Dave Clarke. The abuse is happening to you on a regular basis. This isn't just here and there, or he had a bad day. No, it's all the time. And it's also happening to your children. It's happening right in front of your face in your home, but you don't see it as abuse because you can't afford to do that, because then you'd have to do something about it. The words and actions coming from your abuser are very familiar to you. Nothing unusual, normal even. Chances are very good that you grew up in an abusive home. All the ladies, I always take a little history when I'm talking on the phone with a phone advice client. I want to get down, how old they are, and brothers and sisters, and their family of origin, mom, dad, how you were raised, how did your parents treat you, and many times there's abuse in the home. Now, here are the most common childhood scenarios that create the lie that what you are experiencing isn't abuse. First, your dad abused emotionally and maybe physically your mom, and she tolerated it. You saw that day in and day out for 18 years, and so it's drilled into your head. That's the kind of man you'll be drawn to marry, even though you don't want to. And as a woman, that's how you're to be treated. Mom took it, and so you're going to take it. You learn the abuser codependent pattern. Second, your dad was largely absent in your life. You had no idea how to choose a good, loving man. Look, dad could have been a great guy. It makes no difference if he wasn't there for you. 3, your dad was critical and rejected you. You were never good enough, smart enough, or pretty enough for dad to love you. And you did your best to get that love, and you didn't get it. So now you choose a man just like dad, and you're desperately trying to get him to approve you, think you're pretty enough, and that you're smart enough and good enough. And he's not going to give you that either. That's how it works. Now, oddly enough, during dating, these guys are incredibly charming. They will woo you like nobody else. But then once you marry them, it's like a light going off. In many cases, right after the wedding, or within several months, boom, different story. 4, your dad or your stepdad physically or sexually abused you. You unconsciously have chosen a man who will also abuse you. And many of these dirtballs will abuse you sexually, even though you're married. It is a violation. It's in a category of rape when he forces himself on you sexually or forces you to do things you don't want to do in the bedroom. 5, another family member or someone else sexually abused you. Some neighbor boy, some family member. This deep wound has followed you and drew you to your current abuser. Abused persons often choose abusers. You need to get away from your abuser and do your healing of the sexual abuse and other abuse you suffered growing up. 6, a boyfriend or previous spouse abused you. That kind of set the tone. This solidified your codependent role and set the stage for you to choose another abuser to be your spouse. Talked to a lady just this last week, just a sweetheart, a real dear. An older woman who has been married 3 times. She's now in her 3rd marriage, and every single one has been a dirtball. Now, she was abused as a child. She's never done that work, and so she's a sweetheart. She can't choose a good man to save her life. I said, stop. I said, it's okay. She doesn't want to leave this marriage. I said, you're going to have to leave this marriage. I'm sorry. Let's get you strong enough. That's why I wrote 20 lies for you. Let's get you strong enough. Read 20 lies. Read Enough is Enough, and let's get you away from this monster. It's the 3rd one. God loves you. He forgives you. Get out. And we'll see what God has the rest of your life. But that's what happens. You keep choosing the wrong guy until you get healthy. 7, your parents were overprotective, too strict, and controlling. So you found a man who would control you and make decisions for you. Now, at first, the control is comforting and makes you feel secure because it's what you're used to. But over time, it suffocates you and robs you of your individuality. And God doesn't want that. He made you. A world of denial. That's where you're living. And my job is to shake you out of it. Because of the trauma you suffered growing up, you are desensitized to abuse and accept it as normal. The abuse you experienced from your partner during the dating phase wasn't a turn-off, it was a turn-on. You weren't attracted to good guys. That's what happens. The bad boy, that's who you want. You live in a world of denial. You have for a long time, well before you met your current abuser. You were prepared to marry him. You know your abuser does and says things that hurt you, but who cares? You're used to this kind of treatment. You accept it, you tolerate it, and you try to change him. You won't call it abuse. You minimize it. You reinterpret it. You justify it. You excuse it. It's just the way your life has always been. And sadly, your pastor, your Christian counselor, and other Christians may also tell you it's not abuse. They don't want to face the truth either. Okay, here are the actions. Here's some things you can do. Small things, but important things to start a process of getting healthy enough to buy enough is enough and leave him. or her. Number one, start a secret journal of what your abuser says and does to hurt you and your children. Write it down. What often happens with abuse victims is tomorrow comes, it's a new day, and you wipe out the past. That's part of the denial. No. Write it down so you can remember it. Jot down what happened and what you felt and thought and did about it. Each weekend on Sunday, privately read over your notes for the week. This will refresh your mind. He's abusive. This is what I'm living with. Second, get my book, Enough is Enough. I wrote it for you too. Have it mailed to a close friend or get the ebook. And read the introduction and the first 5 chapters of this book. It will nail down definitively and specifically in a very detailed way if you're living with an abuser. Again, see all my resources on marriages in crisis on my website, davideclarkephd.com. Now, I'm going to continue in this series next time with lie number 2. So you can look forward to that.